Hey guys, how's it going? This is Khan, and I just wanted to make a video to help out some people because when I first got into photography years ago, there were a lot of questions that I had. There was a lot of stuff that I just didn't understand. I didn't know what an aperture was, an f-stop was. I didn't understand what a vignette was. I didn't know what a lot of things did. And, over time and with the help of teachers and with the help of friends, I learned a lot about photography. So much so that I ended up becoming a professional photographer at one stage in my life. And I still do it, and I still, get offers to do work. And photography is a big passion in my life, and it's something that I really, really enjoy. All of you know that I love video games as well, and video games have been an outlet for me for many, many years, just like I'm sure it is for a lot of you. And I like having cool wallpapers, and I like being able to make my own wallpapers and not really worry about going on the internet looking for wallpapers and possibly catching a virus or some weird stuff like that. I just want to be able to make something cool, share it with my friends, or maybe even put it online on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And yeah, anytime a game has photo mode, it gets me hype. So recently, God of War announced that they were going to be doing a photo mode, and I was super, super hype about it. If you ever check my Instagram, you know that I was always talking about it, sharing photos and saying how hype I was for it coming. So now that it's out, I just wanted to give maybe some people who were not so experienced with photo modes or photography a bit of a heads up and a bit of a helping hand so that, you guys can get out there and make the best photos and the best wallpapers for yourself. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be talking about in this video, not only the photo mode, but the controls of the photo mode, and we're going to be taking a look at how to set up a scene because I think a lot of people who struggle with making really cool photos, they're not really sure how to angle the camera, position the camera, or make it as impactful as it could be. So I'm going to be doing some of that in the later half of this video, but in the beginning, I'm going to be talking about how to look at the controls and what do all of the controls do. So why don't we get started in the God of War photo mode. All right, guys, so now that we're into the game, let's go over a couple of things. If you've never used a photo mode before, there are some gripes that I kind of have with the God of War photo mode, but I'll save that for later. But first of all, let's get you all set up so that you kind of know what we're talking about when we start making good images or good pictures in this photo mode. So the first thing you're going to want to do is basically go into your settings. You don't want to go straight into photo mode just yet. We want to go into settings, and then we want to go into the photo mode setting. And then from here, we want to turn on the photo mode quick access. Now, the reason we want to do this is because if we are trying to get into some action really, really quick, or maybe we're setting up something and we want to make sure that we get it close to or as close as we can to perfect timing, then with the quick access on your touchpad, you can actually just press the touchpad and go instantly into the photo mode without having to worry about pressing start and then triangle and then photo mode and then all that other stuff. So you can do it quite easily. Now, there is one little thing about that. If you are pressing on your touchpad, it seems like for me and for my controller, like I need to press the left side of the touchpad and it'll instantly go into it just like that. But if I back out of this really quick, if I press the right side, it goes into the map. So kind of play around with it before you start getting into some action or whatever to make sure that you have it set up for where you need to press it. So again, for me, I press the left side or even at the bottom of the touchpad, and it goes into it really quickly. So just press that, and then you go into the photo mode. So now looking at the photo mode, let's get into this. If you've never used a camera or you don't know anything about like digital cameras or regular analog cameras, there will be some things that I'm going to go over, and I'll try to explain it really quickly so that you kind of have an idea about it. In this first, I guess it'd be over on that side. In the first square, we have the field of view, and basically that's just how wide the shot is. So it starts off somewhere, I'm guessing the default is somewhere around 70 something. If we bring it like to this, it zooms all the way in, and then you can get really close-up shots. It's basically like a zoom, and then if we pull it out like this is about as far as it will get. Personally, I don't like how like the farthest that you can get. I would hope that it goes beyond 100, just because this really isn't far enough. And you'll probably see with some of your photos that you'll probably want to pull back a little bit more, but you just can't. And especially with Kratos, when spoilers, I'm gonna say spoilers about weapons. If you've never played God of War, you might want to, yeah. Anyway, spoilers. He gets the chains back, and when he starts whipping the chains like really far, yeah, they're not in the shot a lot of the times, and that's just because you can't pull out far enough. So for me, I'm gonna just go back to like 75 or something, and then leave it there. Now the focal length is basically how far it takes for the image to be in focus. Right now, this stuff will all change. You know, even though my view is about the same, if I change my focal length even all the way out at 100, this is as far as we can go. And yeah, again, when you start using the chains, it's really not far enough, in my opinion. Other games do it a lot better. Horizon Zero Dawn has like an awesome photo mode. You can go really far away. But anyway, that's just what that is. And then we have camera roll, which tilts the camera. So if you need to tilt it anyway, and this is some more of the advanced stuff that you can use to kind of get feelings, or to make the viewer, their eye track a certain way. And this could be very useful for certain images, and we can talk about that in future stuff if you guys want to know more about that. So next, in the next section, we have the depth of field. For ease of use, they have custom, they have Kratos, so that when you put it on Kratos, it's always Kratos in focus. We have Atreus, which always puts him in focus. We have character 1 and 2. Not really sure who these character 1 and 2s are, but if you look over at the icon, it's going to show Brock, and then it's going to show his brother. So those guys are also going to be in focus, or whoever it is that you want to be in focus. That's the easy way to do it. If you want to set it up manually, we have a couple of things. We have our focal distance, or the focus distance, and this will, if we go down, we will put this on custom, and as you can see, like, pretty much everything is in focus, and that's because our f-stop is at 6.3. Not to get too technical, the smaller the f-stop number, the least amount of stuff is in focus, which is kind of like that blurry effect, and the larger the number, the more stuff is in focus. And basically anything from close up to far away should be in focus. And then if you have a low f-stop number, anything from wherever you set the focal distance to the front or the back should be out of focus. So if we look at our focal distance here, we have like 3.56, and as you can see, Kratos is not in focus, but Brock and the other guy are in focus. So we could change that and bring it back, and then we can slowly tap forward. And unfortunately, you have to tap quite a bit. You can see how Kratos' armor is slowly getting into focus, and now he's into focus. And if you don't want, other things in focus, then you just do it like this, and then you can add, a little bit more drama to the scene, and blur out the focus. And then as you move the camera, you will, things will become in and out of focus. Now the focus is actually on his back, so we need to move it even closer, or actually the other way, closer to the camera, and then we'll have his face in focus, and then the thing on his back is out of focus. And that's basically the amount of focus that you're going to get is dependent on this f-stop. So if I open this up and go to a higher f-stop, you'll see that more things become in focus, and if you pull it down, then less things are in focus. Just kind of remember that if you don't know anything about photography, that's just how that works. Now the next thing that we're going to look at is the film grain. You can add as much film grain as you want. So this is kind of like the artifacts and stuff to make it look noisy or whatever. Or you can just completely take all of that stuff out. We have our exposure, which is how bright things are. You can go up to 10, or you can bring it down to -10. I would just keep it, depending on how light it is, I'd keep it kind of, I wouldn't say 0, because a lot of times it is kind of dark. You might want to bump it a little bit, but that's up to you. And then we have the filters. We can talk about the filters all day long. Very quickly, these filters just add different effects to the overall image. They don't really change anything with the light itself, but they do change things with the overall image. And some of them are good, some of them not so great. And then we have the filter intensity. So if I put something like Atreus, which is kind of like a black and white with a blue, then if I drop this down, it takes that filter off if 10 is too much. So if 10 is too much for you, maybe you want it somewhere where the blue in the background, which should be right above my head, this blue that's back there, if you want that to really punch up, then it'll be like that, but it's black and white. But if you don't want it to be exactly at 0, where the blue is not all that great, you can just add a little bit. It'll desaturate Kratos and it'll make the blue pop. But that's just dependent on that Atreus filter. And you can experiment with that and be creative and do it however you want. Now, the next thing that we have are the vignettes. Vignettes are basically around the frame. They make a kind of dark border-ish kind of thing. So if we turn that off, you can see how the corners of the image just get darker, and they kind of zoom you in to look at whatever's in the center of the frame. And you can, of course, control the intensity of that. You can make it less dark or more dark, and then the fall off is how close to the center it is, or how far away from the circle it is. And even if you turn the intensity all the way off, if you still have vignette on, it still gives you something, even though it says 0. So you can see if I turn it on and off, it still gives me something, and that's something to keep in mind. And then you have borders. So you have, like, these letterbox type borders and stuff like that. Some of these God of War custom borders, and you can just do that, if you want to do it. Personally, I don't use that, but if you want to, you can. And then we have the logo, again, more stuff that you can use if you want to. And then now we get into the crazy stuff. Here you can change Kratos's face, or you can change the first one. You can change if he's even there. So we have show, and then we have hide. So if you don't want Kratos and you want to just take like a landscape, or maybe get some scenery, then you can do that. And you can do the same thing with Atreus, and then you can do that with other characters. And then in the wacky section, we have Kratos's face. I'm sure a lot of people have seen these from different memes or whatever, where you can change Kratos' face to do a bunch of stuff that you probably shouldn't be doing in God of War, but that's what they decided to do, and they put it in here. So you can figure that out any way you want. We're not going to be talking about that in this video, but these are some of the things that you will need to know when you make your image in God of War's photo mode. Okay, so now let's talk about how to set up a shot, or basically how I would go into dealing with the shot. I haven't finished all of the Valkyries, so we're just going to use one of them as an example. Kind of forgive me if I mess this up, but let's just get started with this. All right, so let's take a look at this. So right here, using the camera, we've got these blades flying at me. We got this huge blade that just flew past me. We've got Atreus making some Dragon Ball Z type explosion thing around him. And again, the field of view, let's just try to get this as wide as possible. We're gonna put this at 0. We'll get that as wide as possible, our focal length as wide as possible, and then we're gonna you use your trigger buttons to go up and down. So if you need to go up and down, you just press L2 to go down and L1 to go up. And this is going to help for things like doing shots like this, where if we want to be above Kratos, then we could just go up, and then we'll want to tilt the camera down, and then you could have something where, like, if he's right on top of the guy or whatever, you can have a downward shot like that. So looking at this, because of the distance that we can go with the camera, I would like to get behind this enemy, but I can't. So the closest thing, the best thing I can do is kind of get about here. And again, unfortunately, the limitations of this photo mode, I can't really step forward, or I shouldn't say but I should say we can't really step forward to like move the action forward to capture the shot. I know Warframe has one of, and I play Warframe on PC. Warframe has one of the best photo modes, but it's a completely separate thing. You have to load it up and do a bunch of things. So that one is amazing. I wish there were a few more options with this, but this is what it is. So this isn't going to work. So what we'll do is we'll try to step out and then try to find a better shot and try to get a little bit closer. You're going to want to be kind of close to your enemies so that you can set up the shots that you want if you're trying to go for an action shot. So this isn't really going to work. So I'm just going to back out and then confirm. Try to get closer. Oof. Try not to get killed. And even something like this. Okay, so let's say this. I press the right side as a reflex, but you can do that the other way. Now here we have her hitting Kratos, and then we could even use this as a good example. Now here, because I'm close enough, we have a couple options. We have Kratos getting hit. And his chest is kind of sunken in. We got a little bit of looks like blood. We got some blood coming out. We've got the spikes and stuff coming out from the wings. So we have a couple options of what we can do. Kratos isn't really doing much, so the action I don't think is going to be so much on Kratos, but we could do it here. And the good thing is we can actually get like right up behind this thing. And we can bring the camera down a little bit and get in there and then have it kind of like this. I don't know what that cloud is. I really don't want that cloud, but yeah, that a little bit more like this. Okay, so we got something like this. One thing that I always tell people, and this is kind of a rule of photography, is fill the frame. You want to have as much information of whatever your subject is on the frame as possible. If you've got like for example, if I had the shot like this, it's not to say that this is wrong, but it doesn't really draw you into the picture, if you know what I mean. So what you would want to do really is just kind of get in it if you can. Now we could also put the back of this wing in here, or we could just pull up in like really close and get the back of her head or like the side of her face and then pull it in this way. This is actually not a bad picture. I would actually kind of go with this, and then we can start adjusting some of the things that we want. So we can, if we have the frame set the way that we want, we could go over, and then we could bring this f-stop down, which would make some of this a bit blurrier. And we'll put it down to here. Now you can see Kratos is in focus, but she's out of focus. I would actually rather her be in focus and Kratos be out of focus. And as we get, it's actually going the wrong way. Okay, so the closer you get to this, the harder this is going to be to focus. So now we've got her in focus. It is the main thing I want in focus, and Kratos is completely out of focus, which doesn't really work for the shot. So we're gonna bump this up a little bit, try and get a little bit more into this, and probably go somewhere around here, and then we'll move the focus up a little bit. So we can even do it like this. I mean, you can see the figure of Kratos. We don't really need to show him 100%. And the less detail we have of Kratos, the more focus we have of the enemy. And we can actually drop Kratos's visibility down even more. And then that's totally up to you. You do it however you want. And then we can move over to our grain. You put as much grain in as you want. And now we kind of get into the filters. So if you plan on editing your pictures like on your computer or whatever, you could probably just go with it with no filters. But if you do plan on just sharing it online or editing it up a little bit more on your phone or something, which is what I do. If you've never seen my Instagram, I posted quite a few God of War pictures, and I think they're all amazing. But you can go ahead and check those out. The last 3 that I've posted, I actually shot during my live stream. So if you ever want to come check out my live stream and see me do some of this stuff sometimes while I play, then you can see it live and ask questions there. But yeah, you can throw in some filters. I don't mind this filter just because if we look at the basic image, there aren't really a lot of colors. There's like yellow, white, black, orange, or not even orange, yellow, white, black, red, and a little bit of a hint of green, but that doesn't really count for much. So even if we did something like this, this kind of works. We could also go through some other ones. We have our black and white, and we have our blue. The yellow kind of pops, and this is where colors really pay. You should pay attention to your colors. The yellow really pops on the helmet of the. I keep forgetting the name of this enemy, but the Valkyrie, it pops really bright, and then we have this blue. We have the red from Kratos, and then you can just kind of scroll through this and see what works for you. I would probably, if I was going to make this into a real picture, I would probably go with the Atreus one, just because I like the cool light and I like the shadow. I like this is a little bit better black and white than the other one to me. So I would probably go with this one, and then you can adjust the exposure as much as you want. I wouldn't make it too bright for black and whites, but I wouldn't make it too dark. This is dark enough. You want to have like the white from that face, and then the dark colors, and then that dark color from the blood. You want that to really kind of pop in. And that kind of looks good to me. So if you have a picture that you like or an image that you like, you just press circle to hide the UI. And then what you could do is just hold the share button down, and then it'll take the picture for you. I won't be in this picture because it's an overlay, but this is what the picture could look like. And then from here, you can bring it back and then adjust it if you want to do something else for a different image. Let's say you wanted to go for this image. Maybe you want to have Kratos getting hit. We can bring this back or bring it up a little bit. We've got snow. We've got all kinds of effects, kind of stuff happening. And then we might want to just kind of bring this in a little bit and drop it down. And again, this is how I like to shoot my pictures. I like to fill the frame as much as possible with as much good information as we can get. So we've got Kratos here getting kind of stabbed. We've got the image of the lady or the Valkyrie. She's not completely in focus, but we have these sharp blades kind of coming at us, and we've got a little bit of that blood coming out from Kratos' stomach. So this is the kind of things that I look for when I make my shots. And then let's go over to our filter, and then we can take a look at this again. We have the little blood. It's kind of dark, so I'm not sure that it'll really work out for this image too much. But yeah, we've got cross, which I kind of like, and if I went with cross, I'd probably bump the exposure a little bit because it is a little bit dark. And then we can go back into what exactly do we want in focus, and I would probably drop it a little bit. I don't really care for her to be too much in focus. Or actually what we could do, we could go the other way around, and we could have her in focus and then put Kratos out of focus. And this is actually not too bad either. Kratos would have to be a little bit in focus, and then we'll put her mostly in focus. and that could work out too. It just depends on you and what what you want from your image. And for me, I wouldn't be too mad at this, but actually I think I kind of like the mystery. And this is the beautiful thing about photography, and why I think I fell in love with photography a long time ago, is you can set up the story the way you want. So we don't really have to show her at all. We can just focus up on Kratos, and then we can just kind of put this up and then have a little bit of her image showing into this shot. Let's get a little bit more, because I do want the blades to be in focus. So we've got Kratos in focus, we've got the blades in focus, and we've got her slightly out of focus. But people who play the game kind of know what's going on here. And then let's just rotate this camera a little bit more. And then now we've got, I still want to keep her face in there. So let's drop this down a little bit. I'd like to get this to go through him and go over his shoulder, but it won't. Again, there's some caveats to this photo mode. Some things work, some things a little bit annoying, but it's all good. It's better than nothing, and I'm always happy to get any kind of photo mode in games. So let's drop this down a little bit. Yeah, I really want this shot the way that I want it, and it's not kind of working. Okay, so what we could do, actually, I take that back. What we could do is go into our field of view and zoom this in a bit. There we go. So instead of worrying about trying to push the camera in, we could just zoom it in a little bit and then turn this, and now we're good to go. And drop it down a little bit. Yeah. And there's like some weird line at the top. I want to cut that off. So yeah, we've got Kratos getting hit, blood and stuff coming out. And if you like this, then great. If you don't like it, then that's cool too. It's all subjective. And then we can just get rid of that and then save it. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys found this information useful or helpful in some kind of way. If there's anything that was confusing to you or that you still don't understand, leave a comment down below. I'll try my best to answer anything that I can. And yeah, if you guys do make some awesome images, be sure to put your Instagram in the comment section, and maybe other people can go and check out what kind of images you've made. And yeah, I'd really like to take a look at that. And if you are interested in seeing more of the stuff that I make, you can always go over to my Instagram at con_Mr. So Real and check it out. I will be posting more stuff, and I actually probably post some worked photos on my Instagram as well. Quite a few of the latest ones that I've posted are not straight from the PSN save. I personally like to do a little bit extra stuff. I actually edit some of the photos on my phone. I use an app called Snapseed on an Android phone. I think it's really good, and I add a little bit of extra style to it. So if you want to go and check it out, go over to my Instagram.